Hello, amazing people. Welcome back to another episode on the Rich Opinions podcast. My name remains Richard. This is a Code and Vibe show, the show where we have conversations with people in tech. Um, this year, I told you have to mix it up, right? We've had so many software engineers come through because I have so many software engineering friends, but we are extending our wings. We are trying to diversify. Today, I am excited. I'm very happy because this is huge for me. It's not only a step in diversifying the content. I'm also getting the opportunity to speak to on a normal day, I'll say my boss. So I'll let him have introduce himself because I'm talking a lot. Boss, yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Nana Yaw Amoako, and I'm actually a work colleague. Don't say boss. I don't like boss. So I'm actually a work colleague. We work together on the MTN project, and today he wants to speak to me just a normal conversation, just to know how I think, know things about where I've been, what I've done, you know, general conversation. I believe it to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. So that is the project director of the MTN
Oh,
project. It's huge, bro.
yeah.
The whole MTN project, right? So today we are looking into the the whole job of project management, project. I don't know what goes into project direction, and yeah, so all the stories that you have to share with us throughout your career getting to this point, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I think I don't even know where to start from, but
Even before we jump before we jump in, let's where they say right now everybody they have to seize people's mics because anybody that picks up microphone and doing podcast wants to talk about one question or one topic. So before we jump into the serious, let's lighten the mood. There is a question that goes like, who pays on the first date? Who pays on the first date? So before we jump straight into that one, let's get that one out of the way so that everyone will know that's not why we are having a podcast, but we are answering it for
yeah.
you guys.
Okay, well, for me, I'm a medieval man, so I'm like old school. So I prefer I'll pay on the first date. I mean, um, yeah,
Yeah,
I'll pay on the first date.
right.
I wanted to talk about the second date because I'm a bit too forward, but I mean, first dates I'll pay.
First date is what we are talking about. That's right. So you
Yeah,
pay on the first date.
yeah.
I heard an answer that said whoever's idea it was to go on the date in the first place has to pay on the first date. I found it
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, but I mean, I only agree to go on a first date if I'm also interested.
Right.
And once I'm interested, that means of course, I want to commit in a way.
Okay.
So, and then as I said, I'm an old school guy. So, I mean, old school in that aspect. So, I mean, I'll pay on the first date.
Okay, great. So now that we've cleared that one, um, let's talk about your career, right? You are like super young, and you're handling one of the biggest projects in the country, right? How did it began for you? Where did it all start? If we, yeah, I don't know how or where you're going to take it from, but if you can talk us into it.
Oh, I mean, there's a lot to talk about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I actually um, wanted to come on this podcast because I mean, I think even this past few weeks, I've been doing like this mini series on my LinkedIn where I just decided to like speak about, my career odyssey, if I should say, or journey. Basically, I I started like everybody. I mean, I finished school, I did my national service. I mean, during national service time, I actually did my national service at Huawei.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I finished school, and then guess what? I didn't even do telecom. I did civil engineering.
Right.
Yeah.
It came as a surprise for me when I
Yeah.
read.
You'll be surprised the number of people that did civil engineering actually.
Right.
Even the former MTN CEO did civil engineering.
Engineering.
Yeah, he didn't do telecom. So, I mean, but anyways, so I mean, after school, So let me just start from the more personal level. So after school, right, I was thinking of where I was going to do my national service. I was actually confused. And I remember that time I was in Kumasi, and then we were trying to like round up stuff, and I was trying to see what I was going to do and come back to Accra. Then a friend of mine who is now in MTN, he's actually called Selom Gabla,
Right.
very, very good friend of mine.
Okay.
He actually mentioned to me that, oh, he has heard these people are doing some interviews for people who would like to do like national service, and that's Huawei. So I was like, okay, what is Huawei about? I mean, who is Huawei? Like, I was confused.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, you know, if you don't know what Huawei does, you would think they are phone companies. So he was like,
Exactly.
oh, this phone, this, that. But I mean, bro, we don't know where we're going to do our national service. So we might as well just,
Let's take the
yeah,
chance.
let's just take the chance. And I mean, and I had done my internship at Ghana Highway. I mean, no offense to them, but I didn't really want to go there again.
Again.
Yeah, especially for national service. So he was like, "Oh, let's. I mean, let's do this." So that day, I didn't even. I wasn't. I was like so unprepared, and he was like, "The interview is in like 2 or 3 days." I remember, and so I had to like find some suit somewhere, find something, and then just get to Accra. So then I took a bus. I mean, not to make the bus sound, but like I was in the bus the whole time, just thinking of I mean, what I don't know what I'm even going to say. So then I just picked my phone and then Googled what Huawei does. And I realized it was, I mean, interesting. They are into telecom, IT. But then when I was young, I've always been interested in IT and things around telecom. So I was like, okay, then this will be a very good chance for me to like explore that aspect. So I mean, if I do it in national service, whether I'm picked, I'm not picked, I mean, I still have got the experience of IT. And funny thing, I have a C plus plus certification from AITI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I did that. I think is it after SS going to uni or so. So I was like, okay, then maybe I'll put this set into use because I've not after
Use it.
yeah I've not used
Yeah.
it or something. So then I get to Accra and I was late. So they had actually finished the interview, and then my friend was even out, everybody, and then I got there and I was like, oh, I'm like I'm late. So, and then the HR was like, oh, I mean, we've quite kind of like gotten the number, but I mean, you could just let's see.
Could squeeze you
Yeah, they could
inside.
squeeze me in, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's try. So then there was this Chinese guy, then he was like, oh, I mean, come. So that time, the other people who were supposed to be in the interview had already left. So it was just the Chinese guy and then the HR. Through then, we just had a simple interview. And then the HR was like, okay, they'll get back to me. And then I think a week after, they got back to me and they were like, okay, I've been selected, so I should just send my NSS information, blah, blah, blah. And then they converted me. And then, like, I got to join. But because, like, I was like the last pick, so they didn't really have a specific role for me.
Yeah.
So they had picked those they were going to pick. They needed civil engineers at that time. They were supposed to pick like 5 civil engineers or so, and so I was the sixth one. So they didn't know because the five they had plans for them to be building towers to do stuff, but for me they didn't really know. I mean,
Where they were going to put you.
where they were going to put me. So then I was like, okay, that's fine. So then I just had come in. They maybe do designs. So I was just doing designs with AutoCAD.
AutoCAD.
Those who know AutoCAD. So I was just doing AutoCAD designs. And then later, the Chinese guy that interviewed me came and was like, okay, so since you are here, the designs you are doing are for towers. But now we have this project, which is a data center for government. So we want you to, like, I mean, go there. And there's a guy over there who is an experienced civil engineer who is like supervising the project. When you get there, he's going to show you around and then he's going to be like virtually your mentor and then show you what you have to do.
Right.
So I was like, yo, okay, that's fine. Then, I mean, I just followed him. He took me to the site. Then he just put me there. So the guy just introduced himself, took me around the site. I mean, and then everything. And later the guy was like, "Oh, now that you've come, I mean, I can move on with my other plans." But I didn't get him. So he kept saying it, "Oh, I can move on to my other plans." 2 weeks after, this guy resigns to another job. 2 weeks after. So it means he was just waiting for them to bring somebody
So
so he
that
could move
move.
on
Yeah.
and then leave everything to me. And I can tell you for a fact, like I was rattled. I completely didn't know what to do. I mean, imagine you are going to learn from someone. I know nothing about what is going on. I
The
mean,
whole space.
everything looks so alien to me.
Exactly.
And then this guy resigns, and then the Chinese guy was like, okay, I mean, at this point, they cannot go and bring another experienced civil engineer. And I mean, that was your major. So, I mean, sit here and then supervise what is going on. So, we'll just give you the designs. And they gave me this huge complex. You know, these designs are in like
Yeah.
A3, and then we have like I think it was like 6 to 7 sub different contractors working like simultaneously.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Okay, so now you are the lead." I mean, he has no option, so he has to try. You are the lead, so you have to like supervise these guys. And I know nothing about what they are doing. So I picked the design. I mean, I tried to read it with my civil knowledge, and then we start going back and forth. Then the one thing that helped me was the fact that I mean the contractors understood I was young,
Yeah.
and they knew, okay, fine. So there was one part where they could have spun me in terms of doing the wrong things, and I couldn't have seen it.
Right.
And there was another part whereby, like, they actually wanted to help me because they saw I was in like a perilous
Yeah.
situation,
Very
sort of.
complex
So a
situation.
very complex situation, if I should say.
But before you even continue, I wanted to ask you. So, we have this culture here in Ghana where when you're like younger and you're overseeing people that are older, it becomes very difficult. I remember having conversations with one young lady called Afi, where she had to oversee like a project like that in the data science space. And because a lot of them were older, it was like, small girl we know or share, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, I get it.
Or even normally, especially the lawyers, I've seen a lot of like young lawyers complain about small boy we know a lawyer, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So how did you like maneuver that kind of dynamic
Okay, so
situation?
yeah, so that was one of the first difficult points because the guy that resigned was actually older, right?
Yeah.
He was more experienced and stuff. And then because I had come in and I was young, first of all, I had to like be open and plain. You know, one thing the older generation, if I should say, baby boomers, one thing they don't like is when you come out as pompous, right?
Right.
So I realized that I had to just be open book. I mean, what are the odds? What could happen? So I just came out that, oh, I mean, I'm doing my national service. I need help from you. And then, so I would just need you to help me with what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I'm also desperate. And the second part was respect. I mean, respect is something that um, a lot of people understand it differently,
Okay.
right? There's a difference between being respectful and being meek or weak, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. There's a huge difference actually, but I mean, a lot of people don't know the difference. So you have to respect the person enough, especially with our culture, to know that the person is an older man, how you have to address him, how you have to talk to him. I mean, you can't raise your voice,
Yeah.
and there are certain things you can't do,
Regardless of you being like
regardless
the
of you being
supervisor.
the supervisor, right? But with all of that too, then there's a point where you need to be firm.
Okay.
And the point where you need to be firm is how you have to maneuver your way of being firm. And in that way, you don't have to like shout, but you have to kind of convince the person or let the person understand your point of why you need it done this way.
Okay.
Yes. So it was something that I believe that is where I learned that art because at that point I was very, very young, right? And then even now in my current work,
Yeah.
most of the people I work with are, in fact, almost all of them
Yeah, yeah. So
are
I'm
older
looking
than
at
me.
the
Yeah,
project managers,
yeah,
the
exactly.
various stakeholders, like most of them are
Exactly.
older.
So I just had to convince them why they need to go in this direction. And then sometimes at that point, because I didn't know how to like maneuver, sometimes I just hide behind my boss and say, "Oh, my boss
Says,
says it should go like this." And my boss at that time too was very, very young. I think that was the main thing that actually motivated me, because my boss too, the age difference between my Chinese boss at that time and me was just 2 years.
ah,
You get it?
yeah,
So then we were like brothers. We were not like boss. So I was just hiding behind him. And our culture, if he's Chinese, I mean he's expatriate. So
yeah. So
so
when
I
he
was
says it
hiding
goes,
exactly. So I was hiding behind him. But then he kept saying, so my boss kept telling me that, I mean, I can't sometimes come and hide behind him. I have to be direct. I
yeah,
mean, if it has to be done, it has to be done.
done. Right.
So you have to find a way to do it. So I believe small, 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 small. I learned that art.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. What has been the? I mean, the first project already sounds like very very difficult. But
Mhm.
what other like challenges are you facing? Maybe now that you think the first projects or the earlier projects have helped you to handle them easily now, because I feel like now the current project, even the first project was crazy,
Mhm.
but the current project is like Champions League level of
It's crazy,
stress.
eh?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
get it.
from where I sit, I will not even see at half of it, right?
Uh-huh.
But then I still know the MTN project is a very it's
Complex, eh?
serious. Yes,
Okay, so I would say every project I did kind of gave me a different lesson. The first project that I did, which was I was narrating in a story form, actually taught me how to deal with people older than me,
uh,
right? And then how to take the opportunity. Because it was an opportunity that came, the guy left. I mean, they were going to look for another guy. My boss said, "Oh, I should stay there and do it." They will bring another guy. But then later they found out I was trying, I mean, I was doing my best.
yeah.
So then he kept asking, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Okay, I'll just do it." So I was taking the opportunity, right? So that's what my first project taught me. After that, I had other projects that I did. And so maybe I'll describe the other project. But anyway, the first project, as I said, I was young, but I did it. I had to learn a lot from that. And then I moved on to the second project. The second project was similar to the first project. It was also a data center project, but that was for MTN.
Okay.
So for MTN, the dynamics were different. Sorry. The first project was government. Dynamics were different.
Yeah.
Stakeholders were different.
Different.
Government projects, you manage it slightly differently because the pace is slow. The pace is not as fast as when you
As
come to the
private.
private. So and then for the government people, they have their own way of seeing things. But when I came to the MTN project to also do a data center, I realized the pace was fast.
Yeah.
Everybody is moving. Everybody understands. Everybody wants the thing to be done as fast as
It's
possible.
possible.
So then I had to pick up my pace. So over there, that was where I learned how to pick up my pace. And then that was where I learned how to properly plan a project. The first one, it was already planned.
Yeah.
I was just supervising.
Just took over.
Second one, I was part of the planning. So I had to learn how to plan a project and how to get into the details, know the fine details, and then all of that. Because at that the second project I was actually the project control manager. Or they also have another name for plan control manager.
Okay.
So they gave me the whole plan and I had to plan it and stuff like that. And the second project too, at least, I had some good people from MTN that helped me out, you know. And one thing is always be open to learn from people. That's very important, right? It doesn't matter if the person is on the other side, on your side. I mean, just be open to
To
learn.
learn.
Yeah, I mean, that's what helps.
Right.
So,
So as a project director, before I wasn't familiar with that role.
Mm-hmm.
I think what most of the time you hear about or most people speak about is project managers.
Mm-hmm.
So as a project director, what are like the key responsibilities that you oversee, especially in the telecom sector?
Okay. So in project management, there are different levels, right? Every company has the way they label the levels. But when you come to the actual project management principles, right, in PMP, a project director is actually like a program manager. So now let me explain.
Okay.
So we have a project manager. Of course, you know who a project manager is.
Yeah.
Managing a project end to end, project is limited, blah blah blah. Now there's another level to a project manager who is a program manager who manages a lot of project managers, right? And then also manages mini projects that are similar in nature, right? And then he is like an overseer. So he has to look at the general picture and then try to guide all these mini projects and project managers, yes, to one goal.
Okay.
So now, program manager is the same as project director. It's just another name given to it.
The
So,
roles.
yes, so the role in Huawei, project director, is like a program manager. And when you come into our space, you realize that under me, we have a lot of different managers.
Yeah.
So we have the regional managers, we have this manager, we have power manager, we have this manager, this manager, this manager, this manager.
Yeah.
So they are all managing their mini projects.
Projects. And you are like
Yes,
have
so I
the
need to,
general overviews at your end.
yes, so I need to guide the general this thing. And there are so many responsibilities under it. But I mean, here I just want to talk about the journey,
Yeah.
not school, you guys.
Right, right. Um, so you've come a long way from civil engineering to telecom and now like even having to apply project management principles. How did you make that transition? Now we are in a place or like a point where almost every company has become a tech company. Like there is no more some small IT departments in the corner. It's like you need to go with the flow, right? So there are a lot of people that are transitioning into tech. How did you do your transitioning? I mean, there was the engineering part, so I think maybe that helped.
Yeah, there's the engineering part. I mean, once you do engineering, I mean, you cut
Manual,
across,
yeah.
right? Um, but I also had interest in IT and telecom, right? I think that helped. So basically, at every stage when I'm doing something, I try to learn about it, right? And I'm the type, I'll gain the small knowledge and then try to like, utilize it everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's more like, how these kids, they learn a new word and they want to use it
Use
everywhere.
every time. Yeah.
Yeah, every time. So like I learn something small and I want to like hit it, try to practice it, right? And I can even tell you in my current role, right, there's a lot of things I keep learning every
Every
day,
day.
right? So when I learn it, I learn something small, then I be like, okay, then I pick one or two information I remember from my past experiences, then I just add it up, juice it, and then use. You see, so it's more of everyday learning. The
Learning.
the transition, see, the world is moving fast.
True.
There's no time to wait and learn. Right? There's no time. Nobody's waiting for you to learn. So you need to learn on the move. So you need to pick points, different, and then be learning. So basically, I mean, I wouldn't say I stuck at one point, learned, and no. I just went with the flow and
With
then
the
was
flow.
learning. Yes.
And on that point, how important is it that we are giving people chance and the opportunity to like learn on the job? Because I feel like is a very important thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are looking for the opportunity, but it looks like, I mean, as for that part, I think I'll say like a big kudos to Huawei.
Mm-hmm.
You exactly don't need to be an expert to be recruited from the
Mm-hmm.
front. So okay, maybe then it wouldn't be a question. It would just be pointing out to hiring managers and recruiters to give people the opportunity to
Mm-hmm.
kind of learn on the go, right? But how important is domain knowledge to a project manager, to a project director?
Okay. Domain knowledge is very important. Project management principles are the same across board,
Board.
right? Even now, there's agile project management, which is more for the IT and software side. So we have agile project managers, scrum masters, hybrid guys. But the truth is, the principles are virtually the same. The only difference with the agile side is the iteration, like the repetition. You are into software and IT,
Yeah.
so you understand, like, that whole repetitive nature of the software, and you
Yeah.
keep modeling 2.2, 3.2, blah blah blah.
So
So how do you
completion.
control that flow?
Okay.
Yes, so that's the only little difference from the traditional project management. But I mean, the domain knowledge is very important from where I sit, because um, you could be managing a group of people, but if you don't understand what they are doing, it's a problem.
True.
Exactly. How do you ask the right questions? The truth is, our job is asking the right questions.
Questions.
How do you ask the right questions? How do you direct the person to move? Domain knowledge is very important. You don't need to have 100% the domain knowledge,
Yeah.
but you need to have or arm yourself with around maybe 30 to 40%, enough for you to be able to question what they're doing.
Doing. Okay.
Yeah, so domain knowledge, I would say, is important in my books.
Right. So in driving projects and overseeing all these like mini projects, right? How do you ensure that projects stay on schedule? For example, like the MTN projects, there's so much going on at every point in time. How do you make sure that you're meeting timelines? And if you are not meeting timelines, how do you manage these situations?
Okay. um, so I think this question, I may have to like add a little bit of story to it
Sure, sure.
before I even come to the MTN project, right? The MTN project in itself, I wouldn't. It's not directly a project because it's an operation. It's
Right,
happening
sure.
every day, so it's endless, kind of. So that one is more of an operation, but we classify as a project because at least the contract starts and ends.
Okay.
But I'll take it from. So I've worked in two different countries. I've worked in Liberia. I've worked in Sierra Leone. When I went to Liberia, it was a project. It was a fiber project. I was in a new country, new everything. Culture was different. Everything. I was confused. Now, how do you let the project stay on time, right? And then how do you manage it? It basically is about proper planning.
All right.
90% of the time, if you plan it properly, right? There are times where things will not go according to
To
plan,
plan, but
but you need to plan for when things don't go according to
to
plan.
plan.
You get it?
Yeah.
So 90% of the time is about chasing and making sure the plan is well done. When I went to Liberia, my biggest problem, and that is one thing I learned, was lack of proper planning.
Okay.
So it wasn't more about the planning, if I should say, but it's part of it because I didn't plan. I planned it like I was like doing it in Ghana. Yeah, that's that. I think that's the right sequence of words I should use.
Okay.
I planned it like I was doing it in Ghana, so I didn't anticipate that people will be different, the culture will be
Be
different, the
different.
atmosphere will be different, everything. So that means the plan was not done rightly. So then I got there, and the biggest surprise, culture shock. The people don't work after 5, 6. They are drinking. And then, I mean, the people have like different apologies to the Liberians. It's not like that is how all of them are,
Yeah.
but then that is their culture. They don't really work after um, um, 5,
5 p.m.
unless of course you have a prior agreement with them. But in Ghana, sometimes you don't have to like have a prior agreement. The
Yeah.
person naturally would work. So now I had that culture shock, and now I had to find a way to understand the culture and see that, okay, I mean, where they are coming from, they put in a lot of effort during the working hours, but after the working hours, it's
their time.
their time, and they appreciate family time. So then, how do you convince a person to move outside that,
Yeah.
right? To try and put in extra effort or commitment into the project. So, I mean, you have to like gain some people skills, understand the culture, understand this, and know how to talk to them and gradually get them to the point to understand how important it is for both of you.
Right.
Yeah, before they start to do. So in guiding these kind of projects, um, as I said, planning, and then secondly, understand the environment, right? So now I come to MTN project. There are a lot of different spaces. I have a lot of different managers.
Yeah.
I need to understand each of these managers, what they are doing, and then how they've planned, and then just give my input, and then guide them on what is most important to the whole or to the broader picture.
Operation.
And then you move them towards that level. And in that case, it's easier to guide all of them towards that goal.
Right.
Yeah.
So what strategies do you use to promote like innovation, right? Or more for your people to be more efficient in these like projects and teams? Because like I know if on the MTN project, like all these different teams always having like so much to do. Um, I mean, being pushed to get things done. How do you ensure that um, at least there's some kind of innovation within the teams, or I don't know.
Yeah. So I appreciate people who find smarter ways and easier ways to do things, right?
Yeah.
Than those who work long hours with minimum results. You
Okay.
get it?
Yeah.
There are two types of people, right? In fact, let's say three, if I should say. There's one who will work a lot, not much result. The one who would complain, but will not find a way to solve the problem.
Problem.
And then the third person is the person who is in between working a lot and not working a lot. I call them the lazy smart ones.
Right.
The lazy smart ones will always find innovative ways to do things faster and more efficient. I like those kind of people. In fact, I'm one of them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So I prefer to find a smarter way or an easier way, which is within the regulation, to do something that would be more efficient and faster. So then I don't have to spend long hours in the office. So if you see me, most of the time, some people will say, "Ah, you see me, it's like I'm not doing much," right? Because I just walk into the office. But I'm always thinking, and this is what I like people to do, always thinking about how can we do this thing differently,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes I like thinking. So sometimes I'll be sleeping, then I'll wake up. No, this thing we can do it this way. Then the next morning I'll come and chase everybody for us to do it that way. And funny enough, when we do it that way, you realize that
It works out.
it works out, right? So I mean, I like the third people more who, you know, the lazy, smart, or they bring out a lot of innovation. So once I do it myself, I believe people learn and then they try to do that.
Okay.
That's how I
But
do it.
how do you also try to strike the balance between the innovation and making sure that people are doing what is actually necessary to get a reliable network, maybe one of these days we will do some kind of myth busters on these network and telecom issues, because if you're active on Twitter, you see how they go in for these
Yeah,
telecom companies.
yeah,
Before I joined Huawei and before like I started working in the space, well, I was very active. I was on your necks
yeah. Like every
because I
time the
feel like
network.
the network. Oh, Charlie, why then we buy internet, like so many complaints,
Yeah.
right? But now when I see the tweets and I see the post, I just laugh. So how do you make sure that you're balancing out? Don't innovate too much and ruin something, and actually innovate so that we can get new ways of doing things.
I believe that the telecom space has advanced so much that there are guidelines to innovation actually. So I don't have to do so much work in trying to balance out you not innovating and stuff like that. They are sign of like they are kind of like guidelines that have been actually done by people in the space with more experience. So basically, it's quite a little easier. But then, of course, um, that is why the managers are there. So, fine, we allow you to innovate, but then we guide you that okay, this is what you have to do according to the boundaries that are set. So, well, I use people, so it's that's all I can say.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned how rapid everything is happening, especially in the tech space. What emerging technologies or trends do you think will impact biggest in the telecom industry? I mean, I think in the software industry they are all running because like everybody is it's almost like chaos mode because of AI. But I don't know which trends and technologies is going to impact the telecom space the biggest.
AI.
It's still AI.
It's still AI. You know, the whole world, artificial intelligence is the next thing. It's. I wouldn't even say it's the next thing. It's already
It's
here.
here. It's here.
Yeah, it's already here. I mean, most of this artificial intelligence, machine learning, those kind of things. I mean, they're already here. So you don't have to like do so much. All these things are trying to think for you. They are this AI is trying to do things for you and all of that. So that's the next level, and that is what is going to impact telecom in the next few years.
How do you think? How best do you think we can prepare ourselves? I mean, as either people working in the telecom space, as for like network engineers to from the knock to the field to even
Hmm.
project managers.
Just learn AI.
Is there any there?
Yeah, I don't have much to say. I
It
mean,
looks like that space is lifelong learning. Every
yeah,
day you have to learn something new.
just learn AI. Just understand how it works. I mean, this is like when they moved from the industrial revolution going into the digital revolution. You know, let me give a typical example. Um, those days we used to have factory workers,
Yeah,
right? So manufacturing companies had factory workers that were working in the factory. They'll have like 1,500 guys in the factory hitting kunka things for cars and stuff like
yeah.
that. And then these mechanical things came in, and then most of the people started losing their jobs. So companies started laying off, and these car companies had these kind of like robotic things that were lifting the parts and screwing them and stuff like that. Do you know those that benefited the most?
No
Those who learned how to operate the machines that
machines.
do these things, and those who learned how those things work and know when it's malfunctioning. They became the managers because if I'm seeing this robot moving left and it's supposed to move right,
Right.
then I mean I know there's a problem. So now I'm the manager. I'm the one checking. I'm the quality assurance. I'm the one checking. And then the others who are sitting down and saying, these things are coming to take our
Take our
jobs,
jobs.
they move them on
Right.
to sell groceries. Yeah.
Okay, okay. That's that then. I feel like in the tech space you almost cannot stop learning.
Yeah.
There is almost all the time something new to learn. So
Yeah.
but what projects would you say or what um country, I don't know, would you say is your highlight or your favorite place where you've worked or a project that you've worked on that you enjoyed?
It's difficult because every country I had a different feeling.
Mm,
My most difficult was Liberia. My most enjoyable, I would say, was Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone.
Yeah, but my most difficult was Liberia. I also enjoy Liberia, to be honest. I enjoy the place. I actually miss the country sometimes, and I
Mm,
want to find some time to just pass by.
yeah.
But that project was headache because I hadn't worked outside Ghana before, and I was just now settling into project management fully. Like I was just now settling, whereby I had gotten comfortable in Ghana, and I was like, okay, so I can apply the same principles everywhere, and
Everywhere.
it will work. It's magic. I mean, cut and paste.
Yeah.
And I get somewhere and I cut and it's not pasting. you know. So yeah, that was this thing. But the project I enjoyed, I think it would be the national fiber backbone for Sierra Leone.
Mm.
I enjoyed it because that was the first major project. The project was huge. It was millions of dollars. Uh, I don't know if I'm permitted to mention it, but I wish I could.
So
And
it,
yes, and then um, there was no foreign, as in Chinese, on the project. I
was
did it with all locals.
okay.
Usually, most big projects like that, they have a Chinese guy to support, expert, PD, whatever. But then it was all locals. And so I had a lot of pressure to make sure it works.
Right.
And I had a point to prove. I was
That's
so bent on proving a point that we can do it. And so I did it, and it was a difficult time because I started a project in 2019, and then I think we entered 2020 and COVID came.
right.
And so initially I brought some Ghanaian engineers to Sierra Leone, and then when COVID came, um, something happened. We had to stop the project for a while, and then they went back to Ghana. And now I couldn't bring them back because flights were banned
Yeah.
and stuff. And I came and we're like, okay, then let me just pick Sierra Leoneans and have them trained, right? And
Yeah.
it was an interesting journey training these guys. Now some of these guys are. I think one guy, in fact, two of them are working in Orange. Like
So
anytime I message them, we talk. I feel so proud. Like, these guys have actually gained careers from
the
decisions that we
training, yeah,
took and training. I mean, those things are fun. So that is what makes it fun for
for
me.
you.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's that sense of fulfillment.
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
have sense of fulfillment for that project.
Okay.
And it's being used now. It's
Yep.
their main internet gateway throughout the country.
Oh,
Yeah, the fiber.
that's a huge impact. That
Yeah,
is
it's
that is
it's
big.
it's
That is
huge.
big.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What advice would you give to someone aspiring to become a project director or in the space of project management, either in telecom or general?
Um my advice would be, first of all, try to, get some sets like the PMP, Scrum Master, Agile, those kind of things. Those things or those sets help give you the basic principles that need to guide your career, right?
Right.
So don't see yourself as there's a long way to go. Try to get these certifications. It helps. And the second part is you need to be somebody who takes opportunity and takes risk,
Okay.
right? So you need to be able to. I understand the part of you need to be risk averse and stuff like that, but I'm talking about positive risks in terms of taking risk of, you know, I'm young, but I can do it. Let me do it, right? Taking the opportunity and taking the positive risk or the risk where you feel like maybe you could also fail, but you also take that risk that yes, I can do it.
Right.
Yeah, so you need to, be courageous, be adventurous, and then, take the opportunity. Any opportunity that can, take it, and then try to hit it.
Okay. So we've been speaking about work almost
Mm-hmm.
about an hour now. So but if you are not working, what are you doing? How do you cool off? What are hobbies or what other things are you doing? Because I know operations is crazy.
Yeah,
You could be working around the clock even from Monday to Sunday.
yeah.
So sometimes you need to get into your own space.
I like music, so I listen to music. All kinds of music. Um, I play video games, Call of Duty, FIFA, LFC 24. All of that. Um, I watch TV shows, but I'm very specific about the kind of TV shows I
You
watch.
watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like uni time where I used to have time to watch everything. Now I just have selected TV shows I watch, and I watch them because I mean, I want something to capture me,
Mm.
right? Because if I don't let it capture me, I'll be sleeping when watching it. So I watch TV shows about drugs, like Power, like BMF, those
Yeah.
drug related. And I watch Succession. I think Succession is done, and then Billions. Those kind of shows. Yeah, those shows
So
interest me.
yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, you're not mentioning you watch football because mine you they go through.
and I watch basketball.
What happened to football? What happened?
And
What's
I
the,
watch basketball.
yeah, okay.
No, I
That
watch. I see. I was going to say football first, but I knew you bring the Manchester part. So, I mean, we are going through it. So, I mean,
before we sign off, so you're a project director, right? If you're hired as a sports director for Man U, what are you going to do
sack Ten
differently?
Hag.
Do you think but I believe Ten Hag is not a problem. Okay, to some extent he is, but I feel like the players too they are not suitable for what he's trying to do. Maybe
The thing is,
because
I'm
you've changed managers so many times.
yeah, I know we've changed managers, so we can still change again. I mean, Chelsea has also changed managers so many times. I mean, okay, so the truth is, I don't blame Ten Hag alone, right? I mean,
Yeah,
the players have their part to play, but I feel like if we were losing, but then I could see something in the right direction, like maybe the way we play, the
play. Yeah,
style, and everything, everybody will be fine. It's like when Klopp came, everybody could see the style he wanted to play. The first year wasn't so good, but I mean, you could see the what he wanted to do. Even Pep, you could see what he wanted to
to
do.
do.
Ateta, you could see what he wanted to do.
Yeah,
Ten Hag, first season, okay, we forgive him because he was, I mean, he plays the good place, won FA, whatever.
yeah.
But this season, I'm not seeing what he wants to do. And we've gone through the whole season playing lukewarm kind of football. I don't see whether we are attacking, we are defensive, we are so open. We concede the same mistakes every time.
Yeah, so many shots.
So many. I mean,
It's bad. It's
it's
bad.
bad. Yeah. So I mean,
Okay. All
sack
right.
Ten Hag.
All right. Now that I stressed you with some Man United news.
Uh-huh.
Let's sign up. What will be your last words before we close this episode?
Okay, so I'm very happy to come on your podcast. I mean, the last time when you showed me your podcast, I was like, oh, this thing is interesting. I saw you were interviewing some IT guys, and then
Yeah.
they were all talking about how the IT space is, and I was like, oh, I would be interested. I mean, I would want to come and sit here and talk about telecom and something different,
Yeah.
and then the fact that, I mean, um because I'm also young, I feel like it's very important that you can even see from the project. I like to inspire some people who are also young,
Yeah.
because when I see some potential in them, I feel like inspiring them. So I believe coming on the podcast and talking about what I have been through, what I've done, and stuff like that would also help people, gain that confidence
To
and
take the
then be able
initiative.
to, try to achieve a lot. I mean, I wanted all of us to win. So, I mean, let's
All
win
right. All
together.
right.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
yeah,
for coming on. I really appreciate it. It's
yeah.
not every day you get to sit with
I'll
your
come again.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll come again.
He's going to come again. We are going
Yeah,
to have some telecom engineers, like I told you. There's
yeah.
software engineers. I have plenty, and they've been on so many times. So
Mm-hmm.
it's time for the network engineers to come share what they are doing and the details of what goes into the telecom space, so that at
Mm.
least you guys will sympathize with them when your internet is misbehaving.
Oh,
Uh,
I'm not sure they will sympathize with us no matter what. I mean,
that's true.
exactly,
They will always come for your next, but yeah,
exactly.
I'll still have them come. And I think there are some network engineers that also have personal issues with software engineers because
Mm-hmm.
they believe that software engineers are really loud. And I always say network engineers cannot speak because if they take their eyes off the network, problem. So that's why they are very quiet people. But they will come and plead their case. So yeah, you guys should watch out. Thank you so much for listening up to this point. This has been the Rich Opinions podcast. This is the Code and Vibe show. I'll catch you on another episode. And until then, love. Okay, I think before I go sign out, if you want to reach out to my guest, your
Yeah.
socials.
Oh, okay. One cool kid on Twitter. So it's like one COOL_KIT. That's on Twitter. Uh,
Then
in fact,
LinkedIn.
I didn't want to share my Twitter because I do a lot of things there.
You
That's
cut
my
it. You
yeah.
cut this part out. Put
Oh, you
out
can
the
share it.
link.
You can
Put
share
out
it.
the LinkedIn.
Okay, so LinkedIn is my name, Nana Yaw Amoako.
Okay.
So yeah, LinkedIn is my name. You just go to my name, you see, uh, project something something something. I mean, so for the official part, LinkedIn. For social media, you can check my Twitter, but please don't judge me.
If they find us with and network starts to misbehave, they'll come to your
They'll come to
DMs.
my
I'm
DMs.
telling you.
No problem,
All
no
right,
problem.
all
All
right.
right,
Thank you guys so
all
much.
right. Thank you, everyone.
Love.
All right, bye.